Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is Candace Wright English. I am the co-owner of We Rise Business Solutions. My partner, she will be on the call shortly as well. But we are here today to talk about using Excel for bookkeeping, and I am super, super excited. I've been an accountant now for over 15 years. I have experience on the corporate side of things and then also helping small business. So I have a vast variety of experience. And this part right here is what I love and enjoy the most. All right, so let's jump straight into it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, and everyone can see my screen, right? All right, so I'm kicking this right off in Excel. Today we're talking about mastering Excel for bookkeeping. This is a two-part series. So today we will be laying the foundation, right? The goal of this webinar is at the end of it for you to be able to use Excel to create a profit and loss statement for your business. Super exciting, right? Um, I want to just express how important it is to have bookkeeping in place for your business to one, be able to set yourself up for success and be able to go after different opportunities and know what's really happening in your business, right? Um, our agenda for today, this is the introduction to bookkeeping and the helpful tools to help you organize your business financials. Okay. So the introduce yourself, our agenda will be introducing yourself. Then we'll go into bookkeeping essentials for small business owners. We'll then do a review of a category key that I put together for you all. We'll have some hands-on practice, and then we'll talk about action items for the week to prepare you all for our part 2 of this webinar series. All right, so let's get started. So first, introduce yourself in the chat. So can everyone just put their name, their email, business name, industry, and just very quickly your experience with bookkeeping? Right? So go ahead and put that in the chat. I will also say throughout the webinar, if you do have any questions, go ahead and throw it in the chat because when I'm finished everything, I will then stop and take a look at the chat and answer any questions that are in there. Okay? I do recommend also taking notes. I'm a huge note taker. So of course, throughout this template, there will be different notes in here to help guide you and help remember the different things we spoke about on this webinar. However, I always find that my own notes help me the best. So take notes as well. All right. So what is bookkeeping? Bookkeeping is the process of recording, organizing, and tracking a business financial transactions to maintain accurate financial records. All right. Since you all are on this call, I gather that you all recognize the importance of bookkeeping. So thank you for being here. Understanding your numbers help you plan for growth, manage cash flow, and prepare for slow seasons. All right, we'll look at a little bit of that once I show you the example I put together, and you can see how when you have the picture of your numbers, it really, really helps you understand what's happening in your business. Okay. One of the very, very big things I want to point out is the importance of using your business bank accounts and business credit cards for business income and expenses only. Okay, that means no commingling of business and personal funds. No personal activity should be in your business bank account or business credit cards. Okay, separate finances makes bookkeeping cleaner, it simplifies tax preparation, and protects your personal assets. Right? Not to go too deep into it. However, when we set up our businesses, we are basically creating a separate entity from our personal finances. Right? However, we're creating that legal blanket to separate things. But then when we commingle our funds, that's kind of blurring the lines and it's defeating the purpose of setting up a business, right? A legitimate business. So just make sure your personal and business finances are separate. Okay. When everything runs strictly through business accounts for your business activity, you have a more clear picture of how your business is performing. Okay, I just wanted to just quickly dive into that, the importance of what we're about to do here today. All right, so let's review the category key. So I did some thinking when it came to adding to this template to make sure I'm providing enough guidance to everyone when it comes to what it means to categorize your transactions and what that looks like. All right. So this next tab over here will be the category key. Now, I went through and I added in some common categories that you may need to use in your business. Okay. Now, categories sometimes vary depending on what kind of business you are, but this is a good solid list that should cover majority of businesses we have on the call today. Okay. So I started off with income, right? Depending on what kind of business you are, you either have sales or you have service income, right? Now, I will give you a tip as well. If you are a business that has maybe different lines of services, it may benefit you to, when you're categorizing, to make sure you break up those different revenue streams so then you can actually see how well each revenue stream is doing in your business. All right. Let me take one step back. So, categorizing, when we look at all of our transactions meaning all of our income and expenses that are coming in and out of our business bank account, right? The way we go from just looking at a long list of transactions to looking at an actual profit and loss statement is through categorizing, right? So then we're able to see the bulk of transactions that fell under this category, the total is this. Okay, so this is the reason why we go into categorizing. Okay. So, and I will say if there's any category that's specific to your business that will really help you from a standpoint of analyzing your financials, then please feel free to use it. I just wanted to make sure that I provided a very, very good list of categories for everyone to use. I also put descriptions here for you to understand what falls under each category. Okay. I also put down here, now I did separate it because when it comes to financial statements, these things do not fall on your technical profit and loss statement. However, I do think some of these things will come up in your transactions. So I just wanted to give some guidance as to where to put them. I will say when we get to the end of the year and you go to your accounting, your tax professional to help you with taxes, if you tell them, oh, I paid this amount in credit card payments, they will know what to do with that from a tax standpoint. Okay. So anyone that has some idea of what goes on a profit and loss statement may say, well, that's not supposed to be on here. It's not, but I wanted to provide some guidance as to how to capture the total of these things that you're doing throughout the year. All right. Okay. So let's move over to our getting started in Excel. So the way I structured this, we're basically starting from your bank statements, and we are going to go through an exercise of converting those bank statements to an Excel file. And then I'm going to show you how to take that data in that Excel file, paste it into a template in here, add some additional details such as categorizing, and then you will be able to refresh a pivot table and generate a profit and loss statement for your business. Okay, so that's the steps that we're going to take throughout this webinar. All right, so getting started in Excel. Now, each of you are going to get a copy of this template, right? And I try to do a really good job of putting the step-by-step instructions of how you do each step in this process. So you will be able to take this and throughout the week, work on it on your own books and be able to have something solid when we come back together next week. Okay. So getting started in Excel. Now, the reason why we're using your bank statements is because if you're accurately doing everything you're supposed to be doing, as far as what we talked about on that very first slide, right? Not commingling personal and business funds, everything on this business bank statement should accurately reflect all the activity in your business. Okay. So first, if you don't have access to your online banking system, you need to get access to that. Okay. We need to, I know I've heard some clients sometimes that don't have access to their online banking system. They would actually go to the bank to get paper copies of the statement. That's not going to help us with what we're doing here because we need the copies to be digital, right? And then you being on this call right here shows that you're taking ownership of your business finances. So what that means is we never want to be in a position where we're constantly relying on reaching out to someone at the bank staff to help us get access to see. Nope, no more. So everyone must have access to their online banking system and be able to download a PDF statement each month. Okay. So log into your business bank account, download your bank statements in PDF format, save the statements on your computer in a location that's easy to find, right? I know sometimes when I'm moving really, really fast, I just use the desktop. Let's go ahead and save it on the desktop. And later on, when I want to go ahead and clean it up, I'll move it into a separate folder. But if there's anything I'm doing that I want to be able to easily grab it, save it right to your desktop. So then when we get into the next step, it's easy for you to find. Okay. Now, um, I know that some banks have different formats and different setups. So when you do go to bring down your bank statement, this AI tool is pretty universal so that it can convert any PDF format you have. Okay. But please, anyone that goes to do this next step and you're having trouble, please bring those concerns and those questions to next week's call. Okay. So the next step, once you have your bank statement saved on your computer, now I'll give two tips right here, right? One, once you do August and you have mastered August and you see how to upload, how to go ahead and upload your bank statement, how to convert it, how to go ahead and categorize, and all these next steps I'm about to show you. Once you're able to do that for August, then we want to backtrack and do that for the remainder of the year. Not remainder will be going forward. So back, so from July back to January, right? If you have been operating in your business bank account and you're able to do July back to January with this same exercise, you will really have a solid profit and loss statement that reflects for the entire year. Okay. And if you haven't had a good tax season or unstressful tax season, then this will be your first. Okay. If you come to your tax person with a fully put together profit and loss statement that is accurate, you'll be in a pretty good position. Okay. So once you have those statements saved in PDF format, you are going to click this link right here. It will take you directly to the AI tool we're going to use. Okay. So it's a bank statement converter. Once you go ahead and come to this page, you will actually click on upload bank statement. Now, I do want you to make note of this right here. So this feature, it does convert the first 3 pages. So if you do have a lot of activity in your business and your activity goes past 3 pages, you may have to re-upload those remaining pages to make sure you get all of your activity for the month. Okay. So you're going to click here, upload your bank statement. All right. Then you're going to find wherever you saved your bank statement at, you're going to find it and then hit upload and it'll go straight into here. Now, when I tell you this tool is pretty quick, it gets done in about 30 seconds. Okay. So then once that is complete, you will then have this right here. This is what it spits out for you. It takes that entire PDF bank statement and just does your transactions. Okay. So this is a picture of exactly what you will get. Now, like I told you guys, I did take some time putting the step-by-step directions in this template. So it tells you right here, once you're on the bank statement converter website, click upload bank statement, locate the statement you want to convert, then click upload again. The file will convert from PDF to Excel. Click download Excel, and then the file, you're going to click this button right here, download Excel, and then that file will save to your computer. Okay. So here, I'm just reminding you what I just said, right? Review the Excel extraction file to make sure all activity is included. So one way you can do that review is look at the last line on that bank statement that you just uploaded. Look at the very last transaction. right? And make sure that that last transaction is included on this Excel file that you just received back from this AI tool. Okay? If those two last transactions match, you can feel secure that you have all your activity for the month in this file. If it's not there, like I said, you will have to then take and figure out which transactions were not included and then take those pages and re-upload them and get it again. Okay, I did not say, but that tool, that AI tool is free. As long as you have this link, you will be able to click on this link and do everything that I just showed you. And we'll be able to convert our PDF bank statements into an Excel file. Okay, so again, this is what you will get. This will be your transactions in your business. Now, I do want to call your attention to some of these transactions does not actually tell you the vendor or the store or wherever these purchases were made. So when we get to the next step of categorizing, you are going to have to still reference your bank statement to see where these things should be classified. Okay. So this is what you are going to have. So then your next step, you're going to select from this file that you get from the online AI tool, you're going to select rows 3 and down. So the whole remaining rest of the file. So row 3 and then columns A through D. Okay. Now, anyone that's not really comfortable or too familiar with Excel, as I go throughout the rest of this webinar, you may hear me referencing different cells, right? So in Excel, each block is a cell, right? So this cell that I'm in right now, the location of this cell is D49. Okay, so the columns are letters and the rows are numbers. Okay, so if someone tells you, oh, go to cell C3, right? You now have an idea of where you're going to, right? So when you're looking at that file that you converted, you are going to copy cell A3 through D3 and then all the way down. So I didn't give you a final cell that you're copying to because this will vary depending on how many transactions your business had this month. Right? So if you only had about 10 transactions, and it will only go down to like row 13, and you'll just have that to copy and then paste into the next tab. Okay. All right. So now that we have our actual transactions and we're going to copy this data and paste it in the bookkeeping template, this is what you will get. This is the bookkeeping template. Now in the blue is the data that you're copying from that converted file and pasting into here. Okay. The yellow are the columns that you're going to complete. Okay. The white, they are columns that are already generated. So it's formulas in here, and then it's things generated to categorize the transaction type. Okay. So whether or not it's an income or expense. So this is categorized. There's a formula in here, but it's categorized based upon whether it converted from your bank statement as a withdrawal or a deposit. Okay. So, of course, if it's a deposit, that's income that came in, right? If it's a withdrawal, that's income that went out. So, I put in a formula here to quickly um, identify that for you. All right. So, this is an example of what you will receive. Now, again, some items like this debit card, right? You would have to look to your bank statement to see on that day, that amount, what was the vendor for this, right? Now, the reason why this column, and this column is needed is because of our final result of generating that profit and loss statement. All right. To be able to analyze your business from month to month, we need to be able to see the results of this column right here, right? Things that happen in January versus February, March, and so on and so forth. Then the vendor column is important because if you ever want to analyze how much you pay to a certain vendor, you could easily be able to pull it out in this manner. Okay. Also, if you once you go ahead and do the categories, that also helps what line these totals fall on your profit and loss statement. Okay. So these two lines, so this data right here in the blue, this is copy and paste from that converted file. This column right here, you type it in based upon the date, right? So based upon the month that you're working on, you know, okay, this is all January activity, all August activity, whatever the case may be. You put your month in here, and then here is your vendor. All right. So this is on you to go ahead and identify, oh, okay, I received this amount. What was this for? Oh, it was for this. And then, oh, I paid this amount. What vendor did I pay it to? I paid it to Wawa. It was fuel. Okay. So this category column, you can really rely on the category key to help you identify how you should be categorizing these transactions. Okay. You really have to think about, okay, I paid this money out to this vendor. What was it for? Okay. Now, the receipt side, so this tool is really showing you how to take all the transactions in the data and turn it into a profit and loss statement. Now, additionally, I have clients all the time that ask, well, I know I have to keep my receipts. Well, what am I supposed to do with these? Now, when it comes to tax time, your tax professional does not need the receipts. However, you do need to hold on to the receipts in the event that you get an audit or anything like that, right? I will include in the file that comes over to you all, I will include just some quick step-by-step directions on how to create a Google Drive to save your receipts in there. That's what I recommend. I recommend doing it by month and saving your receipts. So maybe have a January, right? And save your receipts in there. February, March, so on and so forth. So if you ever need to go back and retrieve a receipt, you do have it saved. Okay. So again, I did include instructions over here in case when you sit down to do it yourself, you're like, oh, what did she say again? What goes here? What goes there? So pull all the data from the Excel extraction file, and you're copying columns A through D. Now, the Excel extraction file, it does give you another column that is your bank balance total as you're going along. For the purposes of this exercise, you don't need that. So I say leave it out. I didn't want the extra column of numbers to confuse anyone. So leave it out. You don't need that. Just copy columns A through D, not E. All right. And then when you take it and paste it in here, these formulas will automatically generate the amount and the transaction type. And then you have to enter these columns in here. And all of that, it spells it out for you in here. Okay. I did put some recommendations here. Recommendations, I recommend that you all review your transactions weekly and save your receipts weekly. Okay. Now I say weekly because, and you pick a day that works for your schedule, right? We all have different schedules, especially as business owners. Things may vary for you. I know my perfect day is a Sunday, right? So after my morning duties, church, whatever the case may be, then I sit down and I handle certain things I need to handle. But Sundays, you can go ahead and review your transactions for the week, right? So that means logging onto your online banking and reviewing what was done for the week, right? That will really, really help you when it comes to cost reduction and catching items that you should not be charged for, right? I know we all have subscriptions and things like that going on. Sometimes when you review weekly, you're able to see, like, wait a minute, I know I was charged last week for this. Why is this here again? Let me call them and tell them to stop charging me, right? So it will really, really do you benefit if you pick one day out of the week And you may be a business that Sundays are busy for you, right? So maybe a Wednesday works better. Whatever day out of the week that works for your schedule, please block it on the calendar so that it's real, so that you hold yourself accountable, and make sure you sit down and review your bank transactions in your online portal. Okay. And then at that time, you can also make sure all your receipts are saved in wherever place you're saving them. Okay. And then monthly, you're doing this exercise of categorizing everything. Now, you do this monthly because your bank statements are only generated monthly, right? So that's another thing that I would advise you put on your calendar. Maybe the 5th of each month, you have it on your calendar to pull your bank statement from the prior month and do your bookkeeping. Okay. So for instance, once October 5th gets here, September bank statement should be generated. The statement dates do vary depending on the bank you have, right? So find out what date your bank statements generate, and you use that date for yourself moving forward, right? So you have your date on your calendar that you pull your bank statements, then you go ahead and do the rest of the process we just talked about. Okay. So let me show you, once you enter all of this data, right? Let me show you the final result. Now, the template you all are going to have, it is going to be colored, right? So you can remember, okay, she said blue is the stuff I paste from the converted Excel file, and then yellow I type in. You click here. So this pivot table will already be in your file, and you can literally right click and hit refresh. You will have a legitimate profit and loss statement year to date if you do go back to January. Okay. So then we can analyze our business, right? So when I look at income, I see that, oh, I started off over 12,600, and then I dipped down some. Oh, May has been my worst month yet, right? And then I started to pick up, and now August, I'm looking pretty good. This is my highest month so far. So I'm in a pretty good state, right? And then I can analyze, like, okay, what happened in May that made me dip so much? I can really take that information and plan for my business as we move forward, right? I can also create proper budgets and things like that for times where my cash flow may be constrained. I have some cash flow left over from the remaining month to still cover my bills and all of those things, right? So when this pivot table is created, now there's no way I could make it so that this bottom line, just in the pivot table alone, there's no way I could make it so that it takes income minus expenses to give us our net income or loss, right? So that is something you're going to have to manually do at the bottom. All of you will have this example in your file as well. So if you ever have to look back to say, oh, what happened? What was done here? You can see this. So income minus expenses, if it's a positive number, it will be a net income. However, if it's a negative number, it will be a net loss. Okay. So this will really help you generate to see where your total numbers fall throughout the year. Right? We can also analyze to say, okay, I really need to cut some costs. I want more of a profit. Maybe I want to invest in equipment in my business, or whatever the case may be, right? Let me analyze, what's happening in my business. Is there anything that I should look into? Well, I'm looking here and it looks like equipment, I was consistent at this $78, and then it kicked up to 10,000, and then it came back down, but it's still higher than it was before. Like, what's happening here? Let me look into these expenses to see if there was possibly an error or something I should be mindful of going forward to cut costs for myself. Okay. Let's see. Anywhere else that we can see changes? Um, There was somewhere else that I had changes in here. I know my fuel is up and down. Oh, my insurance kicked up as well. And we know insurance, most of the time, that's a cost that should stay consistent each month, right? So unless I added something additional on, we want to zone into, okay, why is insurance different? I know that your rent is normally something that stays the same if you're paying for space. So those things, like when you have fixed costs that are the same every month, managing your books and really documenting things will really show you where you can zoom in on and potentially cut costs or catch costs that you should not have been charged for. Okay. Another thing in analyzing this, so we can see June we had a loss because our expenses were more than our income, right? So if this is something that happened, well, actually, so this loss came about, it looks like we purchased a big piece of equipment and that's why we went into a loss. But this, I'm assuming that we were really good with managing our cash flow prior to this, so that this month, when we fell into this loss, we were still okay in paying our bills because we had other money on hand. Okay. So I do want to bring attention here to the owner's pay section. Now, owner's pay, when it comes to classifying, for the purpose of this exercise, we're just going to leave it here under the expenses. But like I said, when you go ahead and get ready for tax time, your tax preparer, how do I put this as simple as possible? So this owner's pay, you will still be taxed on this amount, okay? Because it's considered part of your income. And if you're a single member LLC, your pay that you take out of the business, you are still taxed on. Okay, so just to be clear, I saw a question go in the chat, so I'll look in there soon and be able to answer. I'm pretty sure that brought about some questions. Another thing, when we talk about clean bookkeeping, I hear clients all the time ask us, how should I pay myself? How should I pay myself, right? Because we want to make sure you're not using your business bank account for any personal expenses. You want to pay yourself by either writing yourself a check from your business bank account. You can also, if you have capabilities to do like an ACH transfer, to transfer the money from your business bank account over to your personal account. And in your personal account is where you do your personal purchases. Okay. So please, if you don't have a system in place thus far as paying yourself, please do that, because that will help us to make sure our bookkeeping is clean. Okay. Now, for the purposes of this exercise, when you're going back to categorize transactions, the owner's pay, I would say any transactions that you did previously, do any personal transactions from your business bank account, put it under owner's pay, because it technically should not go under any other bucket because it's not a business expense. Put it under owner's pay so we know that that's something that you took out of the business for your personal side. Okay, that is the fix for now to correctly account for it. But as we move forward, since we're taking this huge step to get our business finances and everything in place, as we move forward, we're going to make sure though that we pay ourselves and we move the money from the business bank account to our personal side, and then we do any personal purchases out of the personal bank account. Okay? All right. Another thing I want to bring your minds to when it comes to bookkeeping for your business and understanding how to put yourself in the best position is really seeing your business as its own entity. Right? I hear so many single member LLCs say that, well, I'm the only owner of my business. I do everything in my business. The business money is my money. Mm-mm. Separate that thinking, because if you want to really grow your business to be thriving, positive cash flow, all of those kind of things, then you want to make sure that first off, the amount that you're taking out of the business makes sense, right? You want to make sure that you can still cover all the regular business expenses, is that, and that you taking money out will not put you in a position that you can't pay the business expenses, right? So just do some budgeting and calculating around that, and you doing this exercise will really help you be able to see where some areas of opportunity are. Okay, so these two tabs show you the finished product. All right, now let me show you what it will look like when you first open it up and start to do it yourself. This is what it looks like. Okay, so again, The blue section is where you're going to paste that data from that online tool that we use to convert our bank statements from PDF to Excel. All right, so we're going to paste that in there. And then the yellow is where we put data in there based upon what the transaction is and who we did the purchase or who the payment came from. Okay, so I'm actually just going to, oh, and then this tab. So this is what it looks like when you all start off. So please don't be alarmed to say, oh, I don't see anything in here. I don't see any categories or anything. That is because you haven't put any data in here yet. Okay, so this pivot table template, I highlighted them in green, the ones you're going to be working in. The pivot table template is dependent upon the information you enter on this bookkeeping template. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example of how it will work. I'm actually just going to take some lines from here. I'm just going to just try to make it easy on ourselves. So I'm going to take that and paste them in here. Okay, now hold on, let me backtrack. So as of right now, the formula I have set up, if there's no data in these fields, if there's no data in these fields, it automatically comes up as income. Okay. Now, when you put data in these fields, it then changes based upon which column, whether it's a withdrawal or deposit. Okay. So these transaction types will automatically change. You see this second line, it changed to expense, right? Because of withdrawal that came out. Okay, so now here we are. So we're going to do some of this in real time so you can see an example of what you should be doing. All right, so we pasted this data again from our AI tool that we converted our PDF statement to Excel. And then we're going here. So our month is really simple, right? So we can look at the date right here and see what the month is. So the month is January, right? And we can make it easier on ourselves and we can take this and copy and paste it down because we know that the statement that we just generated and the statement we're working on is January statement. So all of these lines right here are going to be January. Nope. Sorry, I put some February in here as well. So let me make sure I change these all to February so then our statement can be accurate. All right. So in the format of this, I left this in the same format that it will be when you bring it down from that online tool because I didn't want to make any changes and have anyone confused about the formatting, okay? So the formatting of these dates are the year, the month, and the day. And actually, let me just put that in here so everyone's clear. On month and the day. Okay. So it's structured in that way. Your descriptions come directly. If there's any descriptions that don't tell you who the vendor is, you will have to, again, refer back to your bank statement to see what vendor is mentioned. Now, if you look at the bank statement, that converter tool basically takes like the top line of that description from the bank statement. So if your bank statement does not provide all of the data in that top line, unfortunately, you're going to have to like refer back as you're doing this exercise. But it's not the end of the world. It's all right. All right, so vendor, our vendor here, this came from, I just made it up, bookkeeping clients. All right, so that's my vendor. Now I didn't put any specific name because when it falls on my profit and loss statement, I wanted to have a overall category, right? Or overall section where it falls at. So I just put bookkeeping clients. Then the category here, I provided them the service of bookkeeping. So the category here, I'm just going to put service income. Now, if we were talking about specifically our business, we have our statement set up, whereas we have different lines of services, right? So we have bookkeeping income, we have tax preparation income, we have business automations. So our profit and loss statement separates those income lines so that we can see which area of our business is generating the most revenue or income. right? So if you're that kind of business, do some thinking to how you want to set it up. All right. And I think it's a good idea before you even get into all of this, when you're here looking at the category key, do some thinking at this step. You can even, type it over here for yourself to say, all right, these are the categories I'm going to use for income. Okay. I feel like when you do some thinking before you get into this actual being in the nitty gritty, that helps you be prepared to what you want to put in each section. All right. So, and again, as we're working through this exercise, remember on this side, this is what you're starting off with. There's no data in there yet. All right. So I'm just going to go through and complete the rest of these. So this one, I already know because I looked. So this is Wawa, and this was for fuel. This one, I already know because I looked, but this is Intuit, and this is for subscription. We pay Intuit for our bookkeeping services. So it's our subscriptions. And then next one, Atlantic City Electric. I'm going to put that entire vendor name. And that is utilities. This was another bulk payment from bookkeeping clients. I'm going to just put it service income. Pipeline is the vendor name. Pipeline is also a subscription. I didn't spell subscriptions right. So let me fix this one up here. I knew it didn't look right when I first put it there. All right. Here we are. This is another Wawa purchase for fuel. Again, I'm looking back and forth to the bank statement to make sure I'm putting the correct vendor names here. This came from more bookkeeping clients, service. And then as you see, the more and more you start typing in the same names, it'll start coming up for you and make it easier. You can just hit enter. So you don't have to type out every single one. Vendor here is USAA. And our category is insurance. We love Wawa Fuel. A firm. We use the firm to buy some equipment for the office. Capital One. And we made a credit card payment. All right. So now that we have some data in all of the highlighted fields, remember the blue is coming from that statement that we're copying and pasting, and the yellow is coming from us referring to our bank statement on who the vendor is and making those notes accordingly. All right. So now let's go over to our pivot table template. Once we right click on the pivot table and hit refresh, we see all the totals in the data that we just entered. And remember, all we entered on this tab so far was January and February data. So it makes sense that only January and February would show up here thus far. Okay. So say, I don't know, I'm going to copy some more so you can actually like see it change as we go, right? I think it's pretty cool. Here, I'll put that right here. And then let's see here and here. March. Boom, boom, boom. Almost done. And I'll copy the categories as well. All right. So we added some more details to this file. So then we're going to go to our pivot table template and we'll right click and hit refresh. It added in the March data that we just put in the bookkeeping template tab. Okay, so this here is truly how you're building out and creating a profit and loss statement for your business. All right. Now again, the way the pivot table works, So right now, this grand total line, it will be adding up everything, which is not accurate when it comes to your profit and loss template, right? Your profit and loss template, it takes your income or revenue and then subtracts your expenses and either shows you net income or net loss. Okay, so just please be mindful that when you do look at the pivot table, this bottom number is not accurate. You're going to have to do that calculation. And you can always refer to the pivot table example tab, and you can see if you double click on a cell, you can see what cells are included in that formula. Okay, so if you double click on this cell right here that I already did the calculation for your profit and loss statement, you will see that I took the blue. So D8 is in blue, and we know from earlier when I told you guys each cell has a letter and a number that coincides with it. So when I look, all right, D8, and then Excel helps me out too, right? When I click on that cell, it shows me what two cells that's involved in this formula. All right. So it's telling me that the blue, so our income, minus the red, which is our expenses. And that's how I came to that net income number. Okay. All right. I think I should go ahead and start jumping into our chat and see all of our amazing questions. All right. Let's see. Boop. So we have here and we have the Q&A. Q&A. All right. So let's go to the top. Yep. Uh-huh. Oh, so Andrea has been in the chat, so she may have answered a couple of these. So we had some people that said minimal experience with bookkeeping, minimal experience with Excel and recording and record keeping. Okay. No experience with Excel or bookkeeping. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, Angel. Hi, Angel. All right, we have some business name in here and things like that. I think that is awesome. Construction company, I love it. All right, let me come down here so I can get some more questions. Mm-mm-mm-mm. All right, kind of the material for the webinar will be shared to all attendees. Yes, it will. Yep, somebody asked me, is that AI tool free? Andrea answered, yes, it is free. Do you use AI tools currently?
Hi,
Yes.
Candice.
Hi.
Yeah, so I think you should go to the Q&A box, the chat box. That's where the questions are.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, this is a good one. So let's say the receipt is September 30th, but the charge is on 8/2 and the date, the one listed is October statement. Would you put the receipt in the September folder or October folder? Also, let's say you're a person for labor for the last week of a month, but the cash their check on the following week. Would you recommend recording? How would you recommend recording these? Perfect question. Thank you so much, Christopher. So I recommend recording them according to where they fall on your bank statement. Okay. So, because remember, you're using your bank statement as a solid backing for your bookkeeping. So, recording them in the folder that it falls on your bank statement. That is a great question. All right. Um, what if something in the Excel file is being categorized as income because it's set up by default, but is really an expense or contribution you made to your business? That is a great question, Maria. So it wouldn't fall under income if it's truly an expense because of the way I have the formula set up. I was trying to take a little bit of the manual part away from you guys and not make it so that you have to do so much manual. So that's why that column is there. The formula, I'm sorry, that's why that formula is there. So if it falls in the withdrawal column, that is what automatically makes it categorized as an expense. Okay. Now, your question of what if it's a contribution made to you by your business, I will add that line because that's a great thing as well. So you can put that under owner's contribution, because you're right, that is not expense. And when it comes to you giving these files to your tax person, we don't want them to include that in income that you're taxed on, right? That's the money that you put into the business. So it will still be categorized as income for the purposes of keeping it in one section or the other, but we'll do it as owner's contribution. I will also include notes on that tab where you're actually putting together your profit and loss statement. And I'll give you notes to make sure that lines such as owner's contribution and owner's pay and things like that are taken out and not included in your profit and loss statement. Okay. I want to make sure I include that for you. Great question. Can bank statements be used as receipts? No, because the bank statement does not fully show what was purchased from that vendor. Um, so I mean, don't drive yourself crazy if you don't have your receipts up to this point. It's okay. But as you move forward, since we're here and we're all taking the steps to get our things in line, I want to make sure I'm advising you from the most beneficial position possible. So as you move forward, just develop a system to save those receipts. Okay. Can we manually enter our expenses and income? Yes, you can. You can. I just wanted to provide a way that you can easily go ahead and follow the process, and it could be plug and play for everyone. But if you want to go ahead and manually add it instead of doing the conversion part, yes, you can for sure. Okay. What if the owner pay is by W-2? We use ADP for that. Should we be considered as an expense? So again, for this purposes, for knowing where it's going, whether one place or the other, it will be labeled as an expense. However, when it comes to tax time, it's still all right. So let me take a step back. So when it comes to your net income is what you're charged, what your assessed taxes against, right? So when it comes to your net income, when you pay yourself, it's not considered an expense of the business because it's still included in your final income that you're going to be taxed on at the end of the year. Okay, so when the owner takes money out of the business, you're still taxed on that. It doesn't just go away, right? Because then no one is taxed on that money. So you're still taxed on it. Now, W-2 wise, you will have those other taxes that are withheld, but when it comes to tax time, it will shake out, right? So you'll get credit for the taxes that are withheld from that to W-2 and all of those things, right? But again, when you take these records to your tax preparer, they will know exactly what to do with it. Okay? Um, Melissa, is there a method to account for using personal money for business expenses? So I think you're asking me if you make purchases out of your personal bank account for business expenses. I think that's what I'm being asked. So if that's the case, I would say document it manually. So manually enter them. I definitely would not take your personal bank account and convert it to get all the lines out of your personal bank account, because it shouldn't be all the activity on your personal side. That's for business expenses. Okay. All right. Does it matter if you use a credit card versus debit card? So if you have, so two parts. If you have multiple business bank accounts, then this exercise we just did, you have to do that for each bank statement for each account. You do. And then I would say just keep it as a running file, right? So you paste the data from this bank statement, you do everything categorizing and all those things, and then all right, get the next bank statement, paste it in there, and do all those things because you need all of the data to be entered. You also, um, anonymous attendee. You also want to do that for your credit card statements as well. So does it matter if you use the credit card versus debit card? No, either or, but just make sure it's included in your bookkeeping records. Someone did put in here, if you already combine your personal and business expenses, what is the best way to address it to separate everything going forward and to account for the items in the past? I would say doing this manually, because so do it manually and just take your bank statements and look one by one. Now, for the purpose of that exercise, if you wanted to print out your bank statements to be able to, like, with a pen, mark off which ones you have included in your records, you can do it that way. And then I would say the tedious part of that exercise that will definitely give you some encouragement moving forward. That'll give you some encouragement moving forward to make sure you have everything in your business bank account, because it will make it so much easier on you. I'm in my first year of business. How do I include early expenses from the start of my business that's on my own personal credit card? So manually add it to this file. Manually add it. And I mean, from an IRS standpoint, you having those first startup expenses on the personal side, that is understandable. So you're fine. But yes, go ahead and manually enter them in. Do we label 1099 contractors as vendors? Yes. Yep. Yep, we're paying them out. You can put their name. It will show up on your profit and loss statement as who they are and things like that. So yes, I'll put it as a vendor. Making different purchases from, what do you do if you're making different purchases from multiple accounts and credit cards? So you would have to have all of those statements, all of that data included, right? Because you want to make sure that your statements are reflective of all the business activity, right? And businesses, you can have more than one business bank account and more than one credit card. So you want to have everything included. And then for our people that have in the past made business purchases out of our personal side of things, that'll be a way to include it in here as well. Just add it manually. Can AMX statements be used as receipts? So I wouldn't, again, I say it all the time, I like to set my clients up for success, and we want to make sure we do have the proper backup that's needed. So, I mean, don't completely stress yourself out. If you don't have the receipts going back, okay, but just try your best to get into a system and a process moving forward to capture your receipts. All right. So let's say I got another question from Christopher. Let's say you withdraw $400 from your bank account. You only spend $250 for the business and you have the cash receipt for $250. How would you track this in Excel? Would you write down the 400 withdrawal that includes in the bank statement or the cash expenses individually? Great question, Christopher. Um, well, first off, as much as possible, if you can operate from a standpoint of making the purchases directly from your business bank account, I would definitely do it directly from your bank account, right? However, we do know that some vendors require cash payments. So if you are in a situation where you have to withdraw cash from your bank account to go ahead and make that payment, then I would say that transaction you're specifically mentioning, so it looks like the 250 was the only thing that was spent on business. That 150, it looks like that went to personal. So technically, if we're doing correct accounting and bookkeeping, you have to break that up. That 150 should go to a owner's pay, right? Because what you told me in that statement is that you didn't use that 150 for business purposes. So that 150 would go as owner's pay, and then the 250 would be whatever vendor and the amount and all of those things. The thing that will have you covered here is it's a cash payment, but you have the receipt for it. And you have the correct bookkeeping to show, all right, my bank statement shows this withdrawal of $400. And these are the two things that it was broken up into. So literally, Christopher, if you do the convert of your bank account and you take those lines and paste it in, you basically just have to add in a line and then change that number from 400, change it to the 250, and the line underneath have it as the 150. So collectively, those two entries together still equal that $400 that you took out the bank account. But on your side of bookkeeping, you're correctly categorizing it where it needs to go on your statement, your bank statement. Okay. Um, Missed the first hour, so I know it's being recorded, and I believe you all will be sent everything as well. Um, so we need a separate one of these files for like savings and checkings. Yes. Um, So I think it would be a good idea for in this same file for you to be able to just say which account that it's coming from. So I'll actually just add a column here that you can say which account, because I think that will make it easier as you all go along. I didn't realize that so many of us will be having multiple accounts. But with that in mind, that is a good thing to have, because you don't want to have a bunch of separate tabs of these, because then it won't collectively have all your data in this one pivot table, right? You'll have multiple pivot tables that you then have to like try to paste together, and we don't want that. So then what if I have rental properties, but I pay my expenses with the construction business account and I get my rental deposit in my construction business account? How do I separate that, or should I have it as a construction expense? So really, that depends if the rental properties are in the business name. Also I get my rental on the construction business. Hmm. We should talk more about this on like a one-on-one, because I do have more questions for you, because really it depends on, okay, are the rental properties under the construction business name, right? That determines it as well. Um, yep. Yeah, we should talk more about that. My business office is in my home. How do I break down the electric, mortgage, etc.? Great question. Great question. So you don't put it on this file, right? Keep a separate record of your home expenses. So technically, from a tax standpoint, you the way it's looked at is the amount of your home bills, so all the things you're mentioning, they are taken as one big pot, right? So then it's a ratio of the size of your home office compared to the size of your home, right? So if your home office is 200 square feet and your home is 1,500 square feet. So 200 divided by that 1,500, that tells you the percentage of your house bills that you can take credit for when it comes to tax time. So my advice to you is keep that separate. Do not include it in this profit and loss statement that you're putting together. Have a separate tab, and you could go ahead and calculate your house bills and take that to your tax person, because there's two ways that that's handled at tax time. And I don't want to go too far into it, but it can either be the in-depth method that I just explained, or it can be the simple method in which you take the standard deduction on in-home office use. I have seen for many of my clients that the standard deduction gives them a little more of a deduction. All right. Would it be a good idea to take a picture of the receipts and note when the purchase? Yes. So having a system in which you capture the receipts would be really, really good, because just like you mentioned, yes, the ink fades over time. I've had clients that brought to me big bags of receipts, and it's always a few receipts in there that I can't read to be able to classify it. So yes, that is an amazing idea, Tanya. I recommend everyone setting up some kind of system, and that's why I mentioned weekly, right? Weekly, taking a look at your transactions on your mobile banking, you can even have the app on your phone, right? And be able to review your mobile banking and see, all right, these are the transactions that happened this month. Oh, I didn't capture this receipt. Let me go take a picture of that and upload it into my Google file so I can save it, right? Or whatever system you want to develop. You can even have a folder on your computer that you're saving your receipts to. But absolutely, there's also, if no one has used it, anyone that has an iPhone, there's a scan feature in our phones as well, in which you can go to files and then click the little dots up in the top and click scan documents. And then that allows you to capture the document and it's taken as more of a scan and not just a picture. And that scan is much more clear than a regular picture is. So whatever they embedded in this technology, that scan definitely works better. So yes. Um, can you be contacted for one-on-one meetings or questions? I definitely can. I believe we will be getting our information over to everyone as well. I have an Airbnb that I rent out on the weekends. Can I pay my utilities and expenses in that cases? The Airbnb is your business. Yes, you can. Those to accurately capture what's happening in your Airbnb business, you should be making those expenses out of your business bank account. Okay. That will, so also the income that you're making from there should be also coming into that business bank account as well. So you'll be able to accurately reflect how well your Airbnb business is doing by looking at that profit and loss statement. Okay. We are winding down on time. Oh, no, yo, nope. Do business. Now, capturing the personal that has happened already this year, I recommend you going back and manually documenting it into that template and then generating your profit and loss statement. And then if you don't have a business bank account set up yet, please set one up so then you can have just the Airbnb income and expenses going into that separate business bank account, right? Remember, when you're doing these things from your personal bank account, it's commingling your personal and business, right? And we don't want that. We want our business to be separate as its own separate entity. Even though we are the sole owners of it in most cases, we want it to be separate. Okay. All right. Any other questions? I know we're winding down. I tried to make it as plug and play as possible, so it'll be pretty formatted for everyone. How are we recording general savings and sales taxes withdrawals? How do we change it to instead of an expense? So, so that'll be in the next step. So another thing you can do, and let me come off of here. Does it have to be in a business bank account or can we just open a checking account for the business? So if you legit have your business formed as an LLC and have all of the things, I recommend doing a business bank account for sure. Also because Andrea, you got another Andrea. Also because there's other benefits that come with having a business bank account, right? Like you could, continue to build your business and tap into business credit and all of the things. There's benefits to making sure it's in a legit business bank account. Mm-hmm. Trying to see if any other questions come up before I change to the other screen.
So I think there was a question in the chat box. I don't know if it has been answered from Chinwoke. So the question is, what tools are available to help audit insurance claims or liquid assets or agreements from a business to another business? So I'll
Say that one more time for me. I'm sorry, Ebenezer.
yeah, I'm reposting the question.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you so much. This has been great. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, so I just reposted it onto the panelist page. So in the chat, I sent a
Okay,
chat.
perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So, what tools are available to help audit insurance claim or liquid assets or agreements from a business to another business? Would you recommend external help to manage larger catalogs? Why? What are some scenarios where your proper booking becomes a vital need in a business? In what ways does bookkeeping relate to your understanding of the economy? So these are some loaded questions, and very great questions. So all the insurance claims or liquid assets. Well, first of all, having a record of what your assets are. Now, next week, once we kind of go over the understanding that everyone has practiced what we went over today, getting any additional questions on how to use the tools and things like that. After that, we are going to dive into understanding how to document like our assets and things like that, because that's an additional thing as well. Because our assets don't fall on the profit and loss statement. Okay, so that is separate. Um, so to help audit insurance claims when it comes to liquid assets, I would say keeping a definite record of those assets, and that will be separate from what we're doing right now as far as generating a profit and loss statement. So absolutely, that's super important. Um, would I recommend extra help to manage larger catalogs? For sure. I definitely feel like you should, even if it's like quarterly check-ins with an accountant, I think that will be a really, really good thing. All right. What are some scenarios where proper bookkeeping is a vital need in a business? So again, like I said in the very beginning, right? Being able to really analyze your business and see where you're strong at, where you're weaker at, what happened when you would look back on, okay, what happened in my business last month? How did I do? Right? I have recap sessions with a client of mine weekly, and she knows that she's a business owner. She's doing all these things, she's doing some great things in her business, but it doesn't resonate to her as to how well she really did until we sit down and look at her numbers for the week. Right. So then when we look at her numbers for the week, it's like, okay, that made sense because I had this going on, that going on. I got this big client. Okay, that makes sense. Right. Or she was so busy doing other things and she felt like it was good things happening in her business. But then when we looked at the numbers, her income did not reflect well for that week. Right. So we're able to sit there and talk about how she was using her time that week. And although she was doing busy work, she wasn't doing work that really, really impacted her business income. Right. So, really knowing your numbers and analyzing your bookkeeping really helps you all the way around. All right. And then I'm sorry, you had one more question in here. In what ways does bookkeeping relate to understanding the economy? Well, you'll be able to see, right, as the economy goes and different things are more and more expensive and all of those things, if you're doing proper bookkeeping, you'll be able to look at this time frame in which your expenses in this category was this amount, and then a time frame where it drastically went up because of all the changes that are happening in the economy and how much more expensive everything is. Right? You'll be able to really, really see the changes. You will also be able to see when you need to adjust your pricing, right? If expenses for your business are constantly going up and you're not able to cover all of your expenses, then guess what? Those income numbers, your pricing points, and all of those kind of things need to increase to be able to accurately cover your business expenses. So it's really all connected. Um, Great questions. This was a great webinar. I learned so much. I love it. I love it. Love it. I missed the first hour. Will the workshop be given in the near future? We are doing a second part. When will we receive this template? I will be able to communicate with Ebenezer and hopefully we'll be able to get this template over to you later on this afternoon. All right. My spouse is a residential painter and I've been trying to figure this out as I go. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being on here. Thank you all. Yes, yes, yes. Go ahead, Ebenezer. You came off mute.
Yeah. Yes, I wanted to thank everyone for joining us. And thank you, Candice and Andrea, for the presentation.
Yes.
Like you have seen, I've posted a survey template and forms in the chat box, and we encourage everyone to complete the survey as we value your feedback. And also, Temple SBDC is required by its founders to continue to provide non-cost webinars to clients, and so would value your feedback on how to better our webinars and then our sessions. A follow-up email will automatically be sent to all attendees within the next 2 business days with the with the with the training materials and also the recordings. Thank you all for joining us and have a blessed day.
Have a blessed day. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.